let's talk a little bit about how this course is laid out. This is a 5-day course, as I mentioned earlier. If you'll look with me, you'll see that on day 1, we're going to cover the introduction and building a simple network. There are 5 basic modules to this course. We'll cover most of Module 1 on day 1. You'll see that we'll start with building a simple network in Lesson 1, exploring the functions of networking. Then we'll move on to Lesson 2, understanding how 2 hosts communicate with one another. In Lesson 3, we'll do an introduction to local area networks, or LANs, followed by a short break, obviously. In Lesson 4, we'll cover the Cisco Inter-Network Operating System, which is typically referred to as Cisco IOS. So we'll take a look at the software, look at how it functions, and we'll have a brief introduction to that. Followed by Lesson 5, where we'll actually start up one of the Cisco switching devices, and we'll actually get a chance to see how iOS looks when it's configured on a switch. We'll take a brief break for lunch. In the afternoon, again, this is day 1, we'll talk about performing basic switch startup, and we'll actually have a lab to do that. So we'll get into the switch, we'll actually start up the switch, we'll get a chance to play around a little bit with the commands. Followed by Lesson 6, where we talk about understanding Ethernet and switching operations, again followed by a break. Then Lesson 7 of Module 1, troubleshooting common switch media issues, and then that will be followed by Lab 1-2, which will be the last lab for the day. So that's pretty much day 1. And day 2, we talk about establishing internet connectivity, and we'll review this as we move further into the course. On day 3, we'll talk about managing network device security. Day 4, we'll talk about building a medium-sized network, and you can see there are actually some labs where we'll have an opportunity to do that. And then on the last day, we'll talk about IP version 6. And by the time we get there, you'll understand a lot more about that, but typically we work with IP version 4, which is the most popular version of TCP/IP. And that's currently the version that's widely deployed. But we will get an introduction to IP version 6, which is the future of TCP/IP. So we'll talk about that on the last day. We've got several labs and things that correspond to that as well. One thing I will mention on the last day is this Cisco ICND Super Lab, which is optional, but we'll talk about some of the things that involves as well. So that's basically the layout to the Cisco course. Again, this is ICND Part 1, and we're using the version 2 material. One other thing that I want to show you, I want to talk a little bit about Cisco certifications and the certification process, since that's one of the main objectives for you being here. What I've done here is I've just gone to Cisco's website, which is basically just cisco.com. And once I get to the website, you'll see that one of the major areas is training and events. So I want to go to training and events, and I'm going to click on View All Certifications. Just give you an idea of the Cisco certification pyramid and how it works. This particular course, ICND1, is designed to prepare you for the entry level and also the associate level of the Cisco certification pyramid. To get the associate certification, you would typically take ICND Part 1, which is this course, followed by ICND Part 2, which is the second half or the second week of the ICND course. Those 2 courses put together would typically prepare you for a CCNA in routing and switching. ICND Part 1 prepares you for what's called the CCENT, which is the first level or the entry level certification. And you can see that the associate level, or the CCNA, is the associate level, and that's the second level. I mentioned earlier that I hold several of the professional level certifications. I have a CCDP, an NP, CCNP Security, CCNP Voice. Working on the wireless, and I doubt that I'll ever do any of the other ones. Maybe the data center, CCNP data center, I might take a look at that. But that's where I'm at right now, and I'm also looking at starting to study for the Cisco CCIE, which is the expert level of certification. And as you move up the pyramid, what happens is there are more tests involved. The tests tend to be more hands-on, whereas the expert level is strictly a laboratory, and it's considered very, very difficult. Most people require at least 3 chances to pass the test successfully. So that's kind of what we're all working towards. And then at the top, they have the architect level, which is an interview in a lab, and you're brought into a panel, and you have to design a network and all sorts of other things. But this is where you would go to find the information about these different certifications, so I wanted you to see that. If I click on CCENT, which again is what this course is preparing you for, you'll see that there are several different areas that we can cover here. Prerequisites, what's required. Basically, you can see that there are no prerequisites required for a CCNT, so just basic computer knowledge is all you really need. The exams that are typically recommended, you can see that the 640-822 exam, the last day to take that exam is September the 30th. So if you're interested in it, I would recommend that you probably try to take the exam before it changes. If you wait until after September the 30th, you're going to have to take the 100-101, which is probably going to be redesigned and retooled in some way. Further down, you'll see that there are certain study materials that Cisco recommends. The exam certification books are always a good bet. You'll see that there are study groups and other things that you can take part of. And then there's even a link here that you can actually will direct you to taking the exams. The exams are all done by Prometric, which are testing centers, and there's probably one in your local area. So that's basically how you do it. If you're going to pursue a career in Cisco, I would highly recommend that you get yourself a Cisco login, and to do that, you simply click the register link and follow the prompts and set up your own account. And once you have that, then you can start to do things like download software and take advantage of the materials that are available free online. So that's basically Cisco's website and how you kind of navigate through it. There's even places in this website where you can track your own certification progress as you take different tests. So as you move through your career and you've created a Cisco account, you can actually log in and go to the certification tracker and see exactly which exams you need to take to complete any given certification. What you'll find out is that as soon as you take your CCNT, Cisco assumes that you may be interested in going into a number of different branches of networking. And again, if we go back to this page, you can see that they're sort of broken up by category. There's general routing and switching, there's design, data center, security. So once you take the first test, they will actually show you your progress towards achieving any one of these different associate level certifications. So it's a pretty good deal, and it's a good idea to get to know what's available on the website. So that's basically Cisco's training and certifications in a nutshell.
Start with new learning now.